trying to grow a business and remain cash flow positive, it's like eating glass. I don't think businesses go out of business because of cash flow. They go out of business because people quit.
Vick Tipnes went from being completely broke with just $78 in his bank account to building one of the fastest growing healthcare companies in the country, now serving millions, reshaping how we think about sleep and wellness.
Life was day to day. I didn't have the luxury of even week to week. It was day to day for years for me. All the things that I was building in 12, 13, 14 through 18, when the right opportunity came, when it was our time to go out and play in the game, we were ready. Most people look at entrepreneurs as risk takers. I think they're more calculated risk takers than most think.
You're with two young kids. You don't have a safety net. And still you're trying to, why not find a job?
I'm not built for that. The reason that I'm not is because
Vick, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
So, I want to take you back in time to what shaped you when you grew up. How did you grow up? Did you grow up with, knowing that you're going to be an entrepreneur? What was it that sparked that interest?
Yeah, I did. I knew at a very young age. I think probably 8, 9 years old. My father was an entrepreneur, and we migrated here from the UK when I was about 8, 9 years old. And my dad had a small business in Tallahassee, Florida, and I learned by watching him. I kind of saw, him being an owner operator of a small business, and we didn't grow up rich. We grew up middle class at best. And so for me, work ethic, seeing him every single day working in his company, in his business, doing the things that an entrepreneur does,
right,
really kind of helped shape my own kind of thoughts about it. And I was able to kind of compare other people that, whether they went into the professional career aspect of life and went to college and did all these things, I was able to see him and other people that were in my family, in my vicinity, that were entrepreneurs. And that really, I was able to kind of look and see, I like what they're doing. I kind of like that better than what the other person's doing. And I just started to gravitate more towards that.
Let me tap into that because that's beautiful. Because seeing your parents or your dad can bring one of two things. One, you can say, oh my God, he hustles all the time, and I don't know if I want that, or it can kind of pull you. What do you think made you actually be drawn to this kind of a life? Because it's really hard to be your own boss.
Yeah, that's another subject. Being an entrepreneur
We'll talk about that at the end, but it's
yeah. I don't recommend it. I really don't recommend it. I think look, I saw a lot of things that I loved about what my father did, and a lot of things that I didn't like what he did. One of the things was he was really kind of a slave to his company, to his business, and it was a 24-hour business. And we were, I remember only going to a few places with both of my parents because they both had to be, at the business.
Wow.
So, it was a small 25-unit motel, and it was a 24/7 business. So we worked all the time. There was no weeks off or family holidays. I mean, really could count on one hand the amount of times we went somewhere together. So for me, as I was growing up, I knew that's what I didn't want.
Yeah.
So at least I had that. I knew what I didn't want. And so it kind of then allowed me to focus on what I wanted. Again, kind of completely trying to run away from this other type of life. I didn't want to be a slave to my company.
So let me go there, because you start college, but you decide to leave. And you decide that the regular traditional path of being maybe an employee or whatever is not necessarily, or to study really well and, whatever. That is not it. What made you change?
I don't know if I changed as much as I just kind of leaned into what I knew I wanted to do. I knew at a very young age I wanted to be a businessman. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a businessman. So going to college for 6 months, kind of just reinforced that, hey, you
This
need
is
to go
not it.
back to what you really want to do. Yeah, which is be a really crazy individual and put everything on the line and risk everything to hopefully have your day in the sun.
Exactly. A little bit of good moments. We'll talk about
Yeah.
it, Vic. But okay, so you decide to leave. Did you get pushback from family or anybody else, or did it matter?
I got some pushback. You know, my parents definitely wanted me to go to college and get a degree and either be a doctor or a lawyer or something, but
Of
I
course.
just didn't see that for myself. So, I went against the grain quite a bit in my childhood. I was always kind of called the black sheep of the family.
But at least it prepared you well for entrepreneurship. It sounds like the very thick
Yeah,
skin.
for sure. As much as it could be, I don't really think there's anything that can prepare you for entrepreneurship. I really don't think there is.
So you jump, and if I'm not mistaken, you start with selling cars, or was there something in the middle?
Yeah, no, I started selling cars when I was about 18 years old. I did really well with that. I was salesman of the month. Um, and then from there, I decided to get into radiology, and I was the youngest startup founder of a radiology business, and
Wow.
started that at 23, and sold that at 29.
Wait. So let's go
Um,
there for a second. This is like, okay, so you start selling cars, and I'm sure you learn a lot from it, right? Like, I mean,
mhm.
sales, I still think it's one of the most important skills that you can learn as a human. I wish they taught this more in school.
Yeah, yeah.
So you learn a lot about people, sales, deals. Talk to me a little bit. What do you take, and how does that take you to this, radiology business?
Well, unfortunately, first I knew that in order for me to be a great businessman, I needed to know how to sell. So I needed to flex that. I needed to grow that muscle. I needed to flex it on a daily basis, so I really felt confident that I could sell.
So was an intentional thing? Like you actually
Hmm.
wanted to go to sales to learn this. Like it wasn't just
Yeah, I
like,
wasn't.
I don't know where I'm gonna find a job.
No,
Like, okay.
no, no, no. It wasn't like I never thought about it for a second that it would be a career. I thought about it
Right.
like I need to learn skills on how to
Wow.
sell. Like that was it. So I did that to learn really how to sell and to push myself. And I worked 7 days a week. And, I just sold my ass off basically. And I'm like, I need to know how to sell. So as I was doing that, unfortunately, both my parents had a terminal sickness with cancer.
Oh no.
So that introduced me to the healthcare world and
Wow.
having to take them from doctor to doctor, facility to facility. I saw that there was also a need for a customer service level of the human aspect of healthcare, which was lost in my opinion and still is to this day.
Yeah.
Service is just something that people forget about, and they don't understand that people are going to come in to a clinic or get any sort of test done, and there's a level of anxiety there that they're concerned about.
Right.
Am I going to be okay? What's going to happen if? And the what ifs go kind of rushing through
Right.
their mind. So I wanted to provide a service, and that was at that time in radiology, in being able to provide great comfort and care to patients. So, I was able to actually get financing. This was when banks actually loaned money.
What year is that roughly?
This was 2000. So it was 25 years ago.
Wow. So tell me, I mean, you're going through this like really hard time as an individual, because seeing your parents like this is one of the hardest things
Hmm.
ever.
Hmm.
But you're able to see this need, probably because you're pissed at the healthcare, industry, and like the lack of service. But how do you from that decide that I gonna stop selling cars and I gonna jump into trying to you never raise capital, you have no clue how it goes. Like how does that work?
Great. When you say it like that, it was like, wow, it was really crazy. Um,
Sorry, I'm just putting the mirror here, Vic, for a
well,
second.
Well, I stopped doing selling cars, because my parents needed somebody
Yeah.
to help them. So I moved in with them. I think I was like 19 years old.
Wow.
And so they passed away when I was 23 years old,
I'm
23,
sorry.
24. And then I started, thank you. And I started then the radiology business that same year. So, it was good in a way that it kept me distracted, and not engulfed in everything that was going on.
Right.
But I was also kind of at the same time fighting for my own kind of survival and path, because I didn't have a
Right.
fallback. There was no plan B for me. And particularly when when your parents aren't around,
Right.
you can't go home and go to home base and recharge and reset again. So I had to grow up very fast in that regard.
Right. So around the 2000, there was also the bust of the internet. Were you able to raise capital before that? Is that or
In the healthcare, it really didn't affect anything.
okay.
No. So, but there were lenders back in those times that were actually lending money. So I was able to get a loan to buy equipment, and I started it. And, I didn't realize until very much later on just what I was getting myself into. But, it was, um, I think it was just
Right.
sheer will, really. I was just like, okay, I'm going to do this. I had no experience in it. Um, and I had to
Right.
figure it out as I went along.
So tell me, okay, so you take this loan, which is scary as hell if you don't have a big safety net. And we'll talk about how this is also related to what you're doing today. But you're taking this big
Hmm.
loan and you're starting this business in a space you don't really know it, but you've witnessed it through your parents. And I think you just have this big drive because of your parents. So tell me, you started, eventually you sell it, but what happens in the middle?
That, well, a lot of work, a lot of risk, um, and a lot of learning. I
Yeah.
think, you do a tremendous amount of learning earlier on than you think.
Right.
And, I didn't really make any money when I sold it. I sold it for several $1 million. But I only walked away with like $250,000. So it wasn't like a life-changing event. I had made every entrepreneurial mistake you can imagine. I over leveraged, too many partners, nobody, there was no synergies. It was just kind of pure will of just, hey, I want to do this.
Right.
And looking back now, I can say kind of like, oh, you know what? I should have thought things through a little bit differently of how I structured things and did things. And
But nobody's there to teach you. Yeah. I mean, it's like there's just a lot
yeah.
of learning. So, what would you
Hmm.
say if somebody's an entrepreneur that is listening to this before we go into your current business, but entrepreneur that is listening to this, what is the big thing that you want them to know specifically from this experience?
I think you have to really do some soul searching and see if you're really up for this,
Right.
because it's not easy. It really is like eating glass. It's a very painful experience. And unless it's something you really enjoy and you really have the tenacity to
Right.
get through it, I don't recommend it.
Yeah.
I really don't. I can't tell you that, yeah, I would recommend that you go out there and you take all this risk, tremendous amount of risks,
Yeah. There's no
lot of
4-hour work week. You're not gonna work 4 hours. You're
no.
gonna work your ass off, and you tend to take massive
And I don't
risks.
even think it's the working your ass off that I think people underestimate. Yes, you're going to have to work a tremendous amount, like being your own boss. It's not like you're working 4 hours a day.
Right.
But I think what they don't correctly estimate is the amount of worry and the amount of
Yeah.
sleepless nights that you'll have, because everything is on you.
Yeah.
There's no off day. Even if your business is closed that day, you're still
Right.
thinking about it. So you have to really be prepared for that, and then you have to really understand too that the other painful aspect of running a business is growing a business. Trying to grow a business and remain cash flow positive in the green is like eating glass. It's like eating glass. It's a painful, painful thing that people they underestimate that, in my opinion. And I think that's why a lot of people quit.
Yeah.
Because I don't think businesses go out of business because of cash flow. They go out of business because people quit.
Right, exactly. And I think this is so important because I think there's a myth around how easy it is now, and you see all the successes, and I don't think you see
all the social media, how easy it is to make $20,000 a week just by working 1 hour a day.
Exactly. So take me, by the way, to one of those sleepless nights. What makes you not stop? So, what worries you? Talk to me about it for a second.
Well, I think, look, I've had many sleepless nights. I think that, I really couldn't tell you. I think it's an innate thing within some people. Like, I don't have the idea that I can quit. Like, I've struggled with that for many years, because I would sometimes think, something is insurmountable or something is very difficult and challenging. And I have to remind myself that there is no quitting switch in me. So this idea that something would fail is really kind of, unless,
Right.
sometimes industries change and it doesn't matter what you do, you don't have anything anymore. But outside of those types of things, if you really just don't quit, you eventually arrive. Eventually, you just have to have that tenacity.
Enough tenacity to continue. Yeah. So Thomas, so you're selling this business for $9 million. But again, you're seeing how little relatively you're actually taking from this. And again, between the debt and whatever, partners, etc. What is there resentment? Is there like what does that make you feel?
What do you mean?
Like, just in terms of is there suddenly you see that out of the 9 million, not much is coming back to you, and you worked your ass off. So
I was angry.
Yeah.
I was angry that I put myself in that position. And, I'm not the victim type. So I immediately went into that. I'm going to turn this around for myself, and that I'm going to make something out of my life, and that I'm going to prove to not only myself, but to other people that I can do it.
Amazing.
And so that was really the thing
it
I
became
focused
a
on.
fuel. So it became a fuel for you.
It really did. I mean, it's, Frank Sinatra said it best, the best revenge is massive success. So
I like that.
I just said, you know what, I'm going to focus on massive success. And whether that took a year or 5 years or 10 years, that's really going to be where I'm going to put my energy into that, because that's the best revenge.
Amazing.
And focus on that.
So take me to the journey, because at some point there is a lot of you start another thing, and it took a while until you became 5 times in a row Inc. 5,000. It took a while to get there. So take me a little bit of that journey. So you're selling this. What happens then?
Well, I got out of the radiology business in 2005, 2006. And then the private equity group that bought me out, I stayed on board with them for about 4 years. So I left that group in 2010. And I started Blackstone in 2011, just at the end of 2011, I think October of 2011. And I had no money. I had no backing. I had nothing really. I'd also gotten divorced the same year, and I had 2 kids that were 7 and 8. So maybe 8, 9 years old. So I was in probably the worst position that anybody could be in.
Right.
To start anything.
Right.
like the worst. So, but I said, look, I knew, and unfortunately I had got married very young, and I knew that the person I was with was never going to, it was just, we were very different mindsets. And so I said, look, if I ever have a chance of getting to where I want to be in my life, which was very important for me. And I think that's the, going back to what you said about what keeps you going through those sleepless nights. I think that is part of it. Thinking about giving up on your goals is not an option for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not an option for me because I'm giving up on myself. So when I decided that I was going to get divorced and go my own way with no support, no family backing, nothing, it was really for that. It was like I believed in myself that much, and I believed in my dreams that much that I didn't want to be that guy, on my deathbed one day, a long time from now, that I gave up on what it was that I wanted to have for my life.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the thing that most, if you surveyed this, maybe most entrepreneurs would be like, yeah, I agree with that. But that was the component that I didn't want to face that. I did not want to have that conversation with myself.
Yeah. That
so
regret.
I just said, okay,
Yeah.
I didn't want to have that regretful conversation that I should have, that I didn't, that I just gave up. I didn't want to do that.
So, but Vick, why not find a job? Like you're with two young kids, you don't have a safety net, and still you're trying to find, was that even on your radar to why am I just not gonna chill? There's a huge difference between number one and anything else in the company. So was there did that even cross our mind, or it was very clear to you that you're going to start another business?
No, it was clear. It didn't cross my mind.
Really?
I'm not built for that. And I would tell you the reason that I'm not is because the thing that I know that I have, I don't, if you look at my company today, I don't really do a lot of things, like in the sense of, I don't know how to schedule patients. I don't know how the system, operates and works in the sense of the software and the this and the that. And, I don't know how to schedule patients and all. I don't know how to do any of that stuff. You said, hey, Vic, can you go schedule a patient? It would be a disaster. Okay. But what I do have an ability to do is to observe, decide, and act. Right. I can observe really well, and I make decisions fast. And so for me, going the conventional route of getting a job and doing all that stuff, I know that I would be extremely frustrated. Yeah. Because that I just know I have that ability that is above average. So I would just get frustrated because I would see so many things and I wouldn't be able to fix it because I wouldn't have the authority to fix it. And I didn't want to live in that frustration. So had I met somebody that wanted to be the number one guy that had that ability, I would have and was successful, I would have gotten behind that. That I could have been involved with. But I didn't have that luxury. Right. So I had to be that guy for myself. So for me, it was like, okay, this I don't really have an option. Right? Otherwise I would have been just very, very frustrated.
Right. So it's 2012 and again, Blackstone Medical Service doesn't just born, right? Like what happens? Like what instilled that idea? How do you start tinkering with that? And how do you know that this is the thing?
Well, I think every entrepreneur has an idea that this may be the thing. I think that, most people look at entrepreneurs as risk takers. I think they're more calculated risk takers than most think. I looked at what the market was doing and I made an observation that I think that insurance companies and doctors want people to be tested in the home as opposed to going to a hospital or a facility because it's just easier to get done and it's obviously more cost effective and the access is better, right? So I made that bet. Somebody had emailed me about a sleep testing device and I saw it. I said, I can probably build something around this. And so I immediately I didn't think too much about it. I said, this is it for me. And I leased an office space for $500 a month. It was a horrible office. It was so bad that we had to interview people at Starbucks because we saw people pull up to interview, and then they left. It was that bad. It was that bad. It was horrible. Like the floor was slanted and all this stuff. And so I rented the office for $500 a month, and I had one employee. I was a sales rep, and I was just trying to drum up cash, and I would take cash from any investor that I could, and I raised a couple of $100,000, and I was off.
Incredible.
And that was October, November 2011. And we didn't really make any money until 2016.
Whoa, wait. So take me there for a second. So first of all, in terms of sleep, I'll take it. Yeah, I have a bunch of questions. So in terms of sleep, was that something that you also suffered from, that you figured, must be more people that suffer from it? Like, why that?
I sleep like a baby. So no, it was like I had no sleeping issues. But I saw that there are people that did have sleeping issues. So I thought, okay, let's create a company that can really help them get diagnosed for that.
Okay. So you decide to do this. You see this medical device that maybe can help. How do you then basically sponsor life to kids? I don't know what divorce means, but that's, that could get expensive really quick. So how do you sponsor life, I guess, for the first few years?
It was tough. Sponsoring life, paying bills was, I would tell you that up until 2015, maybe early 2016, I was making $800-900 a week. That was 10 years ago.
I would hire you. I'm kidding.
I wasn't making any money. The business was losing money, but we were putting off. It was just constant, robbing Peter to pay Paul, and going through all the day-to-day, like life was day-to-day. I didn't have the luxury of even week to week. It was day-to-day for years for me. Years of, how do we pay this? This got shut off. That got shut off. Can't pay this. Can't do that. Can't go on this trip. Can't do this. Like everything was a can't. But the thing that kept me going was the fact that I saw every month the numbers were going up, right? The patients coming in were going up. The testing numbers were going up. The billing was going up. Like it was all going up. Now, I wish it was going up faster, but it wasn't going down. It was growing 20%, 30%, but it wasn't growing fast enough. And because I didn't have adequate capital, it was always this robbing Peter to pay Paul,
amazing,
being bankrupt several times, like just because we didn't have $10,000 or $20,000, and then I had to go borrow it from somebody and pay him back. And like that was just normal everyday life for years.
Wow. And again, so how do you work on your own mindset or your own belief to basically say, I feel like, and again, you see the numbers, so that helps, but there's still, like, I'm sure within the numbers, there's days that, sorry for the language, suck, right? So like through those numbers, you need to kind of also tell yourself, this is going to work out. What do you do for yourself to just cultivate that belief? It's going to work out. I got this.
I think you got to focus on the positive. Like I never had the idea to quit because I honed into what was going good. Like the patients coming in were good. Yeah. It kept getting better, right? So there was a story I heard about Jeff Bezos when they were building Amazon, and then the stock market crashed because of the bubble in 2000, and the stock went from $116 to $6. Okay. And everyone in the company had this panic, like, oh my God, like families were calling, is everybody okay? And they all thought that it was the end of the world and it was the end for Amazon. And Jeff Bezos said, look, I could have, gravitated towards and got sucked into that. But what he said was, I went and I looked and I saw, hold on, there's more people visiting the website week after week, month after month. There's more people buying stuff week after week, month after month. And even though they were losing money, they were losing less money. So for me, it was kind of the same thing. It was like, hey, we're losing money, but we're losing less money now than we were. And the patient volumes were growing. So we were gaining market share. So now I just had to stay in business long enough for it to kind of really get traction and then go, right? And that didn't happen, Ileana, that didn't happen until late 2018, beginning 2019.
That's a lot of patience. And again, I want the listeners to hear this because I think there's this myth about the overnight success, but this overnight success usually takes a decade to get there or more, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's really, really important. And I think you also need at that point to start growing yourself as a leader, start growing a team, start, right now you guys are big, right? But I mean, it's like, it's already starting, I think, to grow. How do you grow yourself again and not settle, right? Or you settle initially probably a little bit, but tell me a little bit, how do you see that growth?
Well, I think the biggest thing for growth is you got to make sure the company doesn't outgrow you. And I always tell my team this, like, if the company's growing, like, the company requires a different skill set from management when it's at 2 million, 5 million, 10 million, 15 million, 20. Like, it requires a different person. You almost have to shed your skin,
right?
Because the same guy running a $25 million business or $100 million business is very different. It's very different. Hence why there's less than 1% of the companies out of the 33 million in the US do over $10 million in revenue. Like, it's a very small number. So, and then companies doing over 25 million is 0.003%. Because it's barely 1/3 of 1%. So if you think about that, and then you're trying to hire a skill set for this 0.03 percentile out of this big group of people, it becomes challenging. It becomes very challenging. So finding great people becomes tough. So that's where you start really getting into the problems of trying to then scale even higher. Because I tell my team all the time, I say, hey guys, they're like, yeah, it's so hard to find the right people. I said, well, it's harder now than it was when we were doing $2 million.
Right. That's true. That's true. And it's almost like you need to fire yourself from the role that you've been and learn to, right? Like, there's a little bit of that needs to happen so that you can scale and grow. So talk to me about what enabled, eventually this, like, kind of like a hockey stick that you guys are on now, Vic. So share a little bit of that growth that you've been on.
Well, I think hockey stick for most companies are the ones that really right place, right time, had the right fundamentals in place to take advantage of the market opportunity. That's really what happened. We were right place, right time, number one. Number two, we had the infrastructure, all the things that I was building in 12, 13, 14 through 18. When the right opportunity came, when it was our time to go out and play in the game, we were ready. We were ready. That's the simplicity of it. We were just ready to execute. And we drove the ball all the way down the field, and we just kept scoring year after year after year after year. Had I had built the company in 2017, 2016, I don't think that we would have been able to capitalize on it.
Incredible.
And that's what made us the market leader. We were right place, right time, with the foundation in place that allowed us to really hockey stick. But without all those years, and it was a lot of pain, Ileana, but I got to tell you, it was also, we learned a lot. We learned a lot. I learned a lot, and we just became better operators year after year after year. And I think that we're not only the best in the country, but I don't think that anybody in this industry operates at the level that we do.
Right. That's incredible. And it's just incredible to hear your story and just see that, yes, I mean, if you didn't start it when you started it, if you didn't build that muscle that was able to go through all these pain points, probably this would not have happened. So a lot of these dark moments, and I think the listeners need to hear this, because sometimes you're in this really, really, really dark moment. And I do believe it's darkest before the sunrise somehow, Like even in
Yeah.
business,
Yeah.
like sometimes
Yeah.
it does get
It's
really,
true.
really dark. Um, and I love just like your story of how, even though, it wasn't, all shiny and, roses, like it never is.
Mm-mm. No.
I love it. So,
No.
and you write a book about, actually it's about the previous book, but it's about a previous company, but it's also about this. And it says, did you sell your soul? Right. It's never too late to change your story. Why
Yeah.
did you feel like you want to write that book?
Well, I just, I felt it was the right time. It was kind of like me blowing off steam in a way. And, and I feel like, look, the reason I got on social media was really to hopefully be able to give somebody the right advice,
Right.
mindset, motivation, whatever you want to call it, to be able to really, accelerate their life. I think we unfortunately, and it's just a human condition, we feel like at some point, when you're a little kid, everything was just very bright and
Yeah.
new and adventurous, and every idea was a new possibility, and every day you woke up was a new
Yeah.
day. And that's something that I've always been chasing myself to never lose.
Yeah.
And so for me, I think writing the book and doing what I do on social media is just to remind people about that, because I think sometimes as you get older, you get very um, down on yourself, and you complacent, and you give up on that newness of life and
Right.
the excitement of it, and it's adventurous. And I really I want to enjoy life, and I want it to be fun, and I want it to be meaningful, and I don't want it to be a chore. And I
Yeah.
think, unfortunately, a lot of people fall into that trap where life has become a chore as opposed to an adventure.
Oh, I think this what you just said is I've literally get goosebumps because the truth is that's why I started Leap Academy. Like I kind of had it all. So, it's one of those things that you kind of, I had the home, I had the two kids. Theoretically, I should be so grateful. And yet something was so, so, so missing.
Uh-huh.
But sadly, it took a huge fall in order for me to understand that this is actually what I want to do. And I think it does sometimes, I think if all of us get really intentional, very strategic with how we live life, it's kind of what you call, right, maximum life. It's like, because it's not just a paycheck, it has to be the life that you want with that paycheck. And what does that involve for you, right? So I absolutely love it. And
Yeah.
you did diversify a lot of things. Like, yeah, I mean, you have multiple ventures and you have, health tech and Tipnes Capital, and you do all these things. Um, so how do you though, combine between on one hand, and we're big advocates for portfolio careers. So I love that. But how do you combine between having this incredible portfolio and not spreading yourself too thin?
Well, I think it's hard to not spread yourself too thin. I think when you've got a lot going on, it's very hard not to. I think what I do is I really manage my time really well, like really well. I'm a bit of a time hog. Like if I got something I got to do, I leave. If I have another meeting, I have another call, or I've got
Right.
this time blocked out for something, I block everything out and I can just go do that. And so I try not to allow time to tell me what to do. I kind of say, okay, well, from this time to this time, I'm going to be doing this and focused on this. Um, because you do have enough time. The reality is 24 hours in a day, you're sleeping 8, if
Right.
that, right? So you get 16 hours. That's a lot of time. It's a lot of time. So I just time manage everything, and I just I don't really have lunch meetings with people. I
Me
rarely do
too.
dinner meetings. Like it's a waste of time. Like we
Yeah.
got to talk about something. Let's just talk. But I'm not gonna spend an hour and a half just having lunch for a five
For
minute
the sake of
conversation.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not a big small talk guy, so it's like, hey, can we just talk about what we're talking about? Like,
Right.
it's different if I'm hanging out with my friends and we're just, shooting the shit. That's different, but
Yeah. But that's the
talking
fun.
about,
Yeah. Hmm.
but that's different. But with business stuff, it's rare that I'll be like, hey, let's go do a 2-hour lunch and all that stuff.
Yeah, no, and I'm right there with you. And I think in your book, you also talk about investing in identity, which I think is so critical. And unfortunately, it took me a couple of decades to learn about mindset and identity and kind of like looking at myself and who am I becoming. Can you talk a little bit about, again, and Vic, like, and if I summarize your book for people that, I highly recommend it. And it's, you talk about rewriting, you could rewrite your story, right? The failures are an asset, and invest in identity. I think that I would say these are kind of like the big things that kind of stood up. So Vic, can you talk a little bit about these for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it was investing in myself. Like I knew that nothing in life was going to change unless I changed me.
Right.
So if I didn't change and invest in myself, I probably wouldn't be on your podcast. You'd be like, who's this guy? But it's very true. And so I knew there were things that I needed to get better at. And so I doubled down on that. If you're not where you want to be in life, there's something that you got to change about yourself.
And I'm so glad you're talking about it, Vic, because I don't know for a couple of decades that I knew that I need to invest in myself. Like we live in this era of you just tick the box of career education, college. I tick that box. And after that, there's basically you kind of scrape your knees, and that's okay. And I think that was part of the calling of Leap Academy, right? Like there should be a better way to run professional education. But okay, so when you talk to entrepreneurs to invest in their identity or invest in themselves, what are some of the things that are really important for you?
Well, I think mental health, spiritual growth, all these things, learning how to communicate, learning how to understand things, and how the world works, and all of that stuff is very, very, very important. And if you don't have a good understanding of that stuff, you're going to find yourself quite lost, because there's just so much, false data out there, as it relates to mental health conditions and spirituality and all this type of stuff. And it's like people just get lost in the shuffle, and then they end up more confused.
I absolutely agree with you. So if you look at Vic, I don't know, 5-10 years into the future, do you see where Vic is going and where the company is going? Is there a pretty clear vision for you?
Yeah, I think the company's just going to continue to grow and get better and be competitive. The sleep market is a huge market, and we're going to continue to grow at double-digit rates. So I think that's something we're really focused on. And then I think for me, it's also just having fun. Like I like to win. I don't like to lose, and so I know that my future just has more winning. So it's really just me focused on that and having fun, and I love being a businessman. That's what I wanted to do, and I get to continue to do that, and I'm happy.
Right. So let's break it down for a second, Vic, because for people who are maybe don't have good sleep, and I actually have some friends that have, what do you call it? Sleep apnea? Like, I don't even know.
Sleep apnea, yeah.
Right? Like, so.
Yeah, that's what we test for. Yep.
Right. That I know. So what should they do? Like, if they do they reach out to you guys? Do they check you out on your website? Like, what's the right thing if they're listening right now?
They can go to blackstonemedicalservices.com. But what I recommend is that you call your doctor, contact your doctor, and just let him or her know that you'd like to get a home sleep test done by Blackstone.
Nice.
And get a prescription and send it to us. You can send it to us through our website. You can call us directly. The phone number is on the website. You can fax it to us. You can email it to us, whatever. And we will contact you and get you set up, and we will overnight the test to you. Amazing. So that you can do it in your comfort of your own home. You don't have to go anywhere. It's very easy. It's a ring, goes on your finger, connect it to your iPhone or your Android phone, and
Right.
and then you'll know in a couple of days if you have it, and if you have it, what's the treatment involved with getting you better. And sleep is probably one of the most important things, because obviously if you're not sleeping good
Right.
at night, you're not performing great during the day, or you're probably a grouch to be around,
Exactly.
and you're making mistakes at work and all that stuff. So sleep is very, very important. So,
Right.
and it has a big, factor to do with weight, and your ability to lose weight effectively has to do with you getting proper REM sleep. So I
Right.
highly recommend that if you feel like, hey, I'm waking up at night, maybe your spouse has said that you're waking up at night, gasping for air or whatever it may be, to then get a test done.
Incredible. And and then for you, Vic, specifically, and I think sleep, I think it is kind of somehow underrated, and maybe now it's starting to be a little more relevant. Like I
I mean,
think when
it's blown up a lot. Yeah.
yeah, because when I, grew up, or maybe a decade ago or 2 decades ago, like I was actually proud of not sleeping. Like I think I was just like, this was
Hmm.
like like the more red eyes, the more you can slam in, like that, you were kind of cool, right? Like I don't know, that's
Hmm.
how I
Hmm.
grew up, right? So
Yeah.
I think it is, and you're right. Like I was a grouch, I was nasty at everybody
Yeah.
around me. So
Yeah.
I think like it actually has a huge toll. So but Vic, I like to kind of like get your reflection, and that's how we usually kind of end the show. But if Vic talks to your younger self, and maybe you're one of those hard moments, or maybe you're, what would you say to yourself? What were some of the things that you wish you knew earlier in your career or your life?
I think maybe just having a lighter mindset about it. I think sometimes we take things very seriously, and I
Yeah,
think that just having the understanding that you'll get through it. It like good times or bad times, that they don't last, right? It just
yeah,
doesn't last forever. Like eventually it turns. Eventually, you just have to not give up.
the best. Yeah,
That's really what it comes down to. You have to stay positive. You have to work hard. You have to be disciplined. You have to be ethical. You have to be, you have to have tenacity. But you really just can't quit. You
yeah,
just have to know that. Like like eventually, it's gonna end. Whatever is going on in your life, good or bad, it's gonna end.
yeah.
So you just have to remain positive and keep going, really, and have a little bit of a lighthearted attitude about it. That
Yeah.
there's people in worse positions.
That's for sure.
There are people in worse positions. So it's like,
Yeah.
you just have to maybe think about that. Like, well, who do you know that's in a worse position? It ain't hard to find somebody in a worse
Right.
position.
Right.
Like, yeah, there's people, you
And then you
know.
have to be grateful, right? Like you're just like, suck it up, let's go. Do you think something built that tenacity for you? Like what builds, like I was trying to think about it for myself too. Like what builds tenacity? What would build it for my kids?
I think it's God given. I don't think that it's your childhood, or that you something triggers in your mind. I really don't.
Really?
I think there's a level of tenacity in everyone. It's in an innate ability, but some people's tenacity only gets so far.
Yeah.
Like those people, right? Like
I do.
no matter what I do to the people that I know and say, hey, I need you to push more. I need you to be more tenacious. It only goes so far.
Right.
Yet nobody in my life has ever told me to quit, or
Or do
to
less. Yeah.
work harder. Like no one's ever told me, Vic, you just need to work harder, or Vic, you need to be more tenacious about, like, it. No one's ever said that to me,
Yeah.
right? And so
It's true.
it's really just, I think, it's just my observation, and I think it's just innate. I think some people
Amazing.
have that. Maybe they have an abundance of that ability, and that's just them, you know and
Yeah.
because like
Incredible.
my wife, like she's a great person, but if I told her to be more tenacious, she's only gonna get a little bit more tenacious. She's
Maybe
just not
she's
her.
gonna get angry. Maybe. I don't know.
She'll probably just get pissed with me. But it's like it's not her. She's just a sweet person. Like she can't hurt a fly, right? She's just not that person.
Yeah.
So I think everybody has that ability.
Yeah.
Like I think
Interesting.
everyone has genius abilities, but I think they're at different levels. Some people have more than others, and we're all uniquely
Incredible.
different. I think like at the end of the day, whoever you are, whatever you're doing, like there's only one you, and if everybody was the same, it would be very boring.
Exactly. So lean on that
Right.
zone of genius and be
It would
you.
be very
Yeah.
boring. Like imagine if everybody was the same.
I mean, my company would collapse. It would
Look,
be
I love myself, but I wouldn't want another me hanging around me all the time.
no.
That'd be too much.
Besides, for me, it would be a complete
Be too
chaos. I
much.
always, laugh
I need
that
a
I need
break.
my team. Otherwise, everything breaks apart. Like it's just like I just
Yeah.
run and I hope somebody's catching all the things that I'm throwing their way. Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. We have to have
So
a
you need
mix.
that.
We
You have to have a
a
mix. So wherever you fall within that mix, be happy that you're in that mix and carry on.
Lean on it. Vick, thank you so much. Where do people find you? Or if you want them to find you or you don't want them
Well,
to
I'm easy
find
to
you.
find. I'm all over. I'm all over social media. My handle at Vick Tipnes everywhere. All the platforms. You'll find me there. And and if I can help anybody with their sleep, please connect with us. But hopefully this podcast hits somebody and gets them to keep pushing and to never quit.
Amazing. It will hit a lot of people. And Vick, thank you so much for sharing the truth, because I think for me, it's a lot about bringing that truth, not what it looks like in social media, but what it actually takes to drive these big things. And I mean, your story is incredible. You are a little crazy, and I appreciate the story. Thank you, Vick. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on.
More episodes that you're going to love are right around the corner, so definitely make sure to click the like button and subscribe to our channel. Also, who in your life should see this today? Do share this with them. This will inspire and help those you care about and helps us continue to bring amazing guests. And I will see you there.